To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Welcome, everybody. First item tonight on the agenda is to the leadership statement. The City of Hampton endeavors at all times to promote and model the principles of professionalism, trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. And in conducting this evening's meeting, we expect that all participants will be act in a respectful manner and consistent with these principles. Thank you. Next item is public comment. So if there's any comment this evening, we can start with that.
Hello.
Hello. Please just state your name for me.
My name is Kim Fay.
We know who you are. Thank you.
So, when the chicken issue first came up, about whether to allow the exemptions, I had set up a Facebook page for my city council election stuff, and I sent out a poll through Facebook, through the Facebook page, asking, the specific question was, should the Hampton City Council amend the ordinance to allow backyard chickens within city limits? And I was just kind of throwing it out there to see if I'd get any responses from the Hampton people at large that are on Facebook. It's a public post, so anybody could potentially see it, knowing I wasn't going to get a ton of responses. But I got more than I thought, so I wanted to give you the results. So the options were yes, no, or yes, but with restrictions. And the answers that I got were yes, 5 people, no, 4 people, and yes, but with restrictions, 10 people. So I just wanted to pass that information on.
All right. Thank you. Good information. All right. Anybody else this evening? Now we'll move into our next item. Discuss Chapter 55, Animal Protection and Control, related to livestock and poultry. So I've got a couple of things I want to read before we start. And then we've kind of compiled a list of regulations, if you will, that we feel are prudent to have chickens in your yard. I'll go through the first part and then kind of read through this. I can give you both of Kate's council a copy of this, so you can make notes on it. And from there, we'll just open up the discussion and how do we want to approach this topic. So first thing I'd like to say is that we are putting the regulations in, so we have some guidelines for the residents that have requested and been approved to have chickens on their property. In the event that we would allow chickens in town without a permit, which we do not allow, I feel that these guidelines would be much more extensive than what I've got listed here. But we'll have to cross that bridge when we get around it. Next item is we should want these guidelines to be uniform in nature and simple to understand. We don't want them all convoluted. the same regulations for everyone that has chickens in Hampton, basically. The other item, one thing is just that because we're putting to get guidelines for chickens, doesn't mean that we are obligated to approve chickens for everybody that requests them. Just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. And the last item is just keep in mind that any regulations that we agree on will need to be approved and reviewed by our attorney before we can put ordinance in place for that. Okay. So here's a list of thing that Ron and I and through this whole process, what we've put together, the research, all the stuff. One thing is the minimum two acre parcel with a dwelling to be eligible to a permit application. Got to have a house on it. No maximum acreage. Next item is residential properties only. Chickens are restricted to fenced enclosure with a maximum of 400 square feet, if not confined to an interior of a structure such as a building. Coops must be in within a fenced enclosure. Thus, the at-large-ish possibility. Enclosure must be a minimum of 100 feet from where neighbors' dwellings, and about 10 feet from the property lines on your property. Hens only, no roosters. I think we've covered that many times. Maximum of 6 hens, and that's just a number. You guys are more than welcome to discuss that, but we don't want to tie that to the size of the parcel. We're going to say, here's the number of chickens you can have. Simple and uniform. No eggs sales from the property. No chickens allowed in the dwelling itself. No nuisance violations history within the prior 12 months of application for permit. Any violation of the regulations will result in the permit be revoked on the first offense. In addition to the scheduled fine for first offense, animals at large of $50 if applicable. 1 or 2 year permits allowed. I kind of left that open. What do you guys think? We did the 1 year for the first 3. We kind of look at that and talk about that a little bit more. They also what should be their permit fee to help alleviate some of the cost, and what should that be? No refund of the permit fee if the residence, I'm having trouble with that word today, residence permit is revoked. The coop or enclosure in the pen area will have a minimum of 4 square feet of floor area for each chicken, but not allowed larger than 12 square feet of area for each chicken. Coop should be adequate for all 4 seasons of weather in Iowa. The next 3 items I think are covered under our current ordinance, chapter 55.14, and that is the coop and the surrounding area should be kept clean in an attempt to prevent attracting pests. The coop and the fenced area shall be kept clean, sanitary, and free of accumulation of chicken excrement and objectionable odors. All droppings and body excretions should be disposed of properly or used as fertilizer. Chicken feed should be stored in a rodent or predator-proof container. And then any slaughtering of chickens and not regulated by state law, otherwise forbidden or regulated, shall be done in a humane and sanitary manner and shall not be open to the view of public area or any adjacent property owners. The city shall not be liable for death of chickens caused by dogs, cats, or animals, domestic or wild, whether such animals are licensed with the city or not. And along those same lines, injury and death of a chicken caused by an animal is not in itself sufficient grounds for the city to determine that the animal is a vicious animal. So it's a short list, kind of just some guidelines that we kind of put together, and I just want to open it up to the council, and I want to get you guys' input. Like I said, we've got to get to the attorney before we can do anything with it, but if we can kind of pare this down and see where we want to be, then let's do that. So, Mr. Palmer.
First question I had was number 11. No nuisance violations history within the prior 12 months of application for the permit. So if I had a chicken and didn't have a license, are you calling that a nuisance? Or nuisance meaning my property looks bad and you've given me a nuisance?
I had no nuisance, I had violations that we have today.
Okay.
This is all new stuff that we're putting on here. So as today, you don't want to, if you have a nuisance violation, we're probably going to look at you not having chickens.
I mean, that wouldn't be, I'm just thinking if I had a chicken, is that a nuisance violation without having it licensed? If I had a chicken, is that a nuisance violation?
I don't know.
Mark,
That's
would you call,
Currently, yes, that would be a nuisance violation. The nuisance notice would be sent. Currently, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So, did any of the three people that we had get the waivers get violations for that?
No, we sent notices via letter to all three of them.
Okay.
I did not receive them. I'm here in the firing line of my own free will, so.
Okay.
All right. Woo-woo.
We sent three, I think it was these two and some of them 12, but maybe not.
Okay, so I just,
Yep.
because it's going to kind of defeat the purpose of you guys wanting chickens if you're going to say, well, you got a nuisance violation, so,
Right.
but they didn't. So we're starting off on square one. Okay.
Good question.
Yeah, that was just my question. Okay, I'm good with that.
One more question, just on the nuisance part of it. Because I'm just wondering if we're going off nuisance convictions or nuisance letters. So if we send a nuisance, sometimes we'll drive by, they put out the couch that same day, it's sitting in their front yard, we didn't see it, but the officer drives by, sees it, writes the nuisance, sends it to him. Is that going to be a nuisance violation? Or are we going to wait till they don't pick it up, it goes to court, and then it's a conviction?
I think that if the council wants to include a clause such as this, then they would need to clarify that and expand on it.
Yeah.
I would say conviction on that, because you're actually found guilty. I got 2 nuisance violation letters this year alone, so I mean, I'm not wanting to raise chickens either.
Thank God.
I know.
All right, Mr. Paul, Mr. Lamos?
Number 16, I don't think we need to limit the size of the area for each chicken. We just have to have a minimum.
You guys want a copy of this?
Yes, that would be, I started writing it down
Oh,
and scratched.
could they get a copy of this? I don't want to interrupt, but.
Yeah.
They can. This is for the council to discuss at this
Yeah, right,
point.
right, I
So
get that.
just remember that.
I'd like a coffee if that's okay for my own.
Going for a girl piece as well.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So you don't think we need to limit the size?
If it's fenced in or if it's in a chicken coop, it shouldn't matter the size.
So if you had 2 acres of land and you put chicken wire around the entire 2 acres, and then let chickens roam in there, how is that different from just having them open range, other than they can't get past the fence?
Well, 12 seems awful small to me.
Per chicken. So I think that came up in our conversation quite a bit, is the size of the coopies, with coops, which are, suitable for chickens to be in them. And there's gonna be more than one chicken in there, so we gotta make sure we've got the right amount of room, space for them.
I think the square feet per chicken is different in the coop and different for the run space. I think in the coop, it's like 2 to 3 square feet per chicken, and then outside, it's 3 to 4 square feet.
So we can put that
So I
out.
think
We can
I-
put that in there.
And while I got the floor, I'd like to add, I'd like to just go right back and start with 55.05, written consent of the council. I think if we lay out these regulations and somebody comes to City Hall and says, I want a permit for chickens, first, they have to be inspected by our code violation officer. Are they set up and prepared for chickens? Upon inspection, they look and see if the requirements are met, and then the code enforcement officer can issue the permit or not. I don't think the city council needs to be involved in giving special consent. I think our code enforcement officer, I trust his judgment. I think he could handle it. If we had the regulations set up, I think we could remove that from, and then we wouldn't spend all this time talking about chickens.
Right. Well, that's what came up, because I had entertained taking that out of there, and that
Right.
wasn't gonna work for somebody or several people, so
I think we could.
Somebody's
once we
gotta
had regulations set up for our code enforcement officer to follow.
What about these mobile chicken runs? So the chickens can get fresh grass every couple days.
I know nothing about them. I have no knowledge of that. So, again, we want these regulations or these rules to be simple, and they want to be uniform.
I would,
There's a lot of ways we can go with this. We can get as big as we want to be, but where do we want to end up?
in answer to that, I would think a mobile chicken run, as long as they are within the regulations, okay, it's got to be 100 feet from your neighbor's dwelling, it's got to be 10 feet from your property line, has to be in the backyard. You can still move it around the backyard and still follow.
Conceivably, yeah, absolutely.
And I'd like to ask about,
Yeah.
why not egg cells? Why can't they sell their eggs? What is the rationale for that?
Well, well, the way that we are approaching this, we're looking at this as more of a hobby. Yeah, people are gonna eat the eggs, they're gonna have sunny side up. But once you start selling them, now it's a business. So, does the
Well, I
zoning
did
come
look
into
into
play at
that.
all, or?
I did look into that when I was researching this, and there are no state regulations for selling eggs to your family and friends. It's only if you begin selling them there's not even regulations for farmers markets. You can sell your eggs. it only becomes an issue if you're selling it to a commercial establishment, like I'm raising chickens to get these eggs and I sell them to the grocery store, something like that. But then again, 6 chickens don't lay that many eggs.
Right.
Jerry, would the word commercial help you out on that? No commercial egg sales?
Well, I'm even thinking though, if we're only allowing 6 chickens, do we even need to have that in there?
Possibly not.
Steve,
Yeah.
I have a question. With these regulations, are we talking about a resolution or an amendment or a new ordinance on this?
Either or plus.
Well, the
What would
reason,
you like?
the reason I brought that up is we have the 3 applicants that came in and asked for an exception, which is allowed under our 5505. And I really don't know why we would have to change too much if we go the resolution route. If we go the ordinance route, there's other articles in our ordinances that we'll have to deal with. It's not just this one. Article 6 will have to change about R1. We'll have to change things about zoning permits. So my suggestion would be to just do a resolution to 5505 by adding the following. Exception by written consent of the council may be considered if, at a minimum, the following items are addressed. And I threw out numbers too, and I had the property size of 2.4 acres. That was the smallest one of the applicants that we had. That's why I used that one. The location of the coop kind of concerned me, and so I included that one. And I put a minimum of 225 feet from a property line, not a building, because if they did have a neighbor, if it's 225 feet, you're about 70 yards in a football field. You're plenty of, you've got the room if you got 2.4 acres. Just so you're not sitting right next to your property line of your neighbor, so he doesn't have to deal with it. It's a reasonable distance. The number of chickens, 6 to 8. And then I had the no sale of chicken goods or animals slaughtered within the city limits, because everything else, like you said, the no free range chicken is already covered under 5514. The permit required is, I think it's covered under zoning permits required if they're building a chicken coop. The chicken coop size, you talked about the suitable for the 4 seasons. Well, we already have that in our 153 International Business Codes. The property feed is already covered in 5514. The bedding and waste material is already covered in 5514. So I think, so we don't have to drag this and go over it and change several different ordinances. A simple resolution would still allow the exception, which I think was the purpose of the original people when they drafted Chapter 55, to allow this. And we had 3 people come to us with that exception, and we based our approval, I'm thinking, because they're in a unique situation at the edge of the town. They have large properties. They have no neighboring businesses, no neighboring homes. And 2 of the 3 stated that one of them was less 8 chickens and no intention to grow. One was 6 chickens and absolutely no chicken to grow. 2 of the properties said that they had no intention of selling the eggs. And they both addressed their coops, and they addressed the waste, and they addressed their feed. I really don't mind somebody coming up for an exception if that's what's allowed in 5505. As long as we just have at least the 4, that with everything else, that covers just about everything. And I just don't want to go talk about chickens for now until the kingdom comes.
No,
And a simple resolution, we can do it with 1 vote, where the ordinance has to go 3 times, and sometimes to get an ordinance through, we found out with the dogs, takes a long time. I don't want to go back that direction again. Anyway, so I'd propose a simple resolution with a minimum of 4, and if you know, that's my thoughts, so.
Okay. Did you have something to say?
Yeah, so the ordinance, if you're gonna make any regulations tied to an ordinance, it needs to be by ordinance. The prior discussion from our attorney where she suggested you could do a resolution was pertaining to the situation where we had requests in front of us that we wanted to act on soon, and the question was whether we could put regulations on. And she said the best way to do it is through an ordinance. You could do a resolution as more of a temporary, since you had to act, we were kind of in a situation we had to act on those three. Now where we're in a situation where we don't have any requests before us, and if we want to tie anything to this chapter 55, it should be by ordinance.
So I just have a question, just for clarification, because I'm not sure the particulars. If we put an amendment to the ordinance, is that the same as we had to go through three votes and all this for the
Correct.
amendment?
That's correct.
But you're telling me we can't put in a resolution to a current ordinance?
No, to change an ordinance has to be by ordinance.
Okay.
Or amend, you basically you amend the ordinance by ordinance. Yeah, an ordinance amendment. Yeah.
And
Right.
it does take.
Now, you could waive two
re-ratings, But
readings.
we can waive two of them.
If the council votes to
So,
waive two,
that's
then
up
it
to
could
you
be
guys.
done in one reading. That's up to the council.
Okay, let me ask you, just for argument's sake, let me ask you one more question. If we did nothing, absolutely nothing, and we left the ordinance as it stands, if another person came up to us, at that point, we could say, we could come up with these resolutions without, could we do that then? If
Well,
if
she
we had another applicant?
Yeah, so the attorney at the time recommended any changes to be by ordinance, any regulations by ordinance. But if we wait until you get another action, and then you'd have to then do it by resolution to deal with that situation, but then you're going to do a resolution every time you.
I understand. Well, thanks for the clarification.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we're gonna do an ordinance, if we're gonna specify regulations, I think that we should do it now, because it's been stated that, anybody that was approved to have chickens, once we get an ordinance in place, then we would expect them to abide by the ordinance. So why wait for another person to do it? They may never have done it, so just a thought.
I would rather have the guidelines in place in the ordinance so that when the next person does come along, we can look at our guidelines and say, whoops, well, you don't quite fit, it's not going to work.
All right.
It'd be a much easier decision for us if we're going to make that decision.
Mhm. So basically, where we're at right now is how many regulations do we want to put in? Do we want to keep it simple, that's like I suggested, simple and uniform, or how extensive do we want to get? And up to you guys. And I think leaving it up to the code enforcement person, I think that there was probably, don't know who did it 40 years ago. They got expect consent of the city council. So I think we should be involved to a point so that we're aware of what's going on in the community. Mr. Palmer.
When Mr. Hanson had cows or whatever he had way on his property, he had to come and make a presentation just like the ladies did, and we approved it, so we had to. My other question is, and this is, I hate to get off topic, but we're still talking about sales of stuff. If we have any beekeepers in town, and if they sell their honey, does that fall under the same regulations, or would this just be just chickens, or are we talking no sales of anything that anybody has in town?
Last I heard, beekeeping didn't come under livestock.
Oh, okay, all right.
So
Got it.
we're looking basically livestock, which encompasses the poultries.
I want to go back to number 3 because I really don't understand
Yep.
what you're saying there. Can you clarify that?
So, the way I read this, and this is up for interpretation, is restricted to a fenced-in enclosure with a maximum of 400 square feet, if not confined to the interior of a structure such as a building. So I would say, to me, that means if you have coops inside, they're contained. If they're outside, if they can get outside, now we need to have a place where that they can contain them outside of the building.
I would say that 3 and 16 are similar, so you'd want to just determine what you want to see as far as size. So they're kind of conflicting, so you'd either want to do a per square foot per chicken, or just name a maximum square feet of a fenced-in enclosure, or don't have a maximum.
Yeah.
So it's up to the council.
Yeah, I think the thing, gotta keep in mind is we're thinking of the chickens here. You know, how much room do they have?
Right.
To move out and move around, and so, yeah, we don't have to have a maximum. It's whatever you guys want.
I don't know, I just think 3 is confusing. If they're not confined to the interior of a structure such as a building. So I just find that confusing. I think it's very vague and confusing, and
So if you have an outside structure, or an outside fenced-in enclosure, what size do you want it to be for 6 chickens?
correct.
That's all.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, I think 16, it's kind
Yeah,
of
they're-
redundant,
Yeah,
but when you say
Both or
interior of a structure such as a building, I mean, someone's gonna say, oh, I can keep them in my garage. You know, can we use coop instead of building? Do you see what I'm saying? I think it's
yeah,
confusing.
absolutely.
I think that's why we want to have some kind of a structure here, because
Yeah.
people are going to pick it apart. I don't care what we put in place. They're going to say, well, if I do this, this is that. And I'm like, well, that's not really how it was intended. So then you're going to be, taking a look at it every time. So we kind of we don't want to be, like I said, uniform, simple. But we've got to have some kind of guideline. Or we'll just let them have chickens and we go with the at-large, don't do that and you're okay. But I think we got to have something. That's just my opinion. Kristen, are you still with us?
Fell asleep.
Mr. Tar?
Since you're talking about coops, I just want to give you some
Okay.
information that I came up with. It's really close to how we handle our sheds, basically. But these are
Thank you.
just some general thoughts. It's real consistent with our sheds, with the zone. Just food for thought.
Doug, is there a way you can get those?
Kristen's gonna log off and log back on, Becky.
Can you tell me what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, your 5th sentence means should be limited to 3-foot rear and side yard setbacks?
So basically, that's where our garden sheds are, those are the setbacks related to our garden sheds. I know that contradicts some of what you are, but setbacks. I'm just talking about any structure considered to be a coop. I think the coops need to be a standalone structure. We need to get a zoning permit for it with, like we normally would, like with a shed. That's, I like the other ideas that came forward earlier as far as the distances goes, since there was a size lot restriction, but, that's just where we are with garden shed. They have to be able to
So is it saying they can put a coop on their side yard? Well, it,
Three from the back and three from the side.
okay,
So the minimums,
thank you.
right, but backyard for sure, I would not want to.
Okay.
I have a question, please, Doug and city council members. Like for my chicken.
Step up to the mount, please.
Hi, guys.
Thank you.
So with my coop, and I think Mary may be the same kind of boat that I am in. Our chickens reside in a pre-established structure that was on the property prior to our purchase. It was half of it was just kind of like junk thrown in, and the other half was a indoor-outdoor dog run. So in circumstances like that, where you may be re-outfitting a building to house chickens instead, it meets all the other requirements. I mean, it meets all the requirements that are here. The only difference is that, my chickens are in a pre-established building rather than building from scratch. So I'm not sure whether or not, do I need to do something for chickens being in a pre-established? I'm assuming obviously that when I bought the property 5 years ago, that all buildings on the property were built with a permit and zoned. Granted, they were built back in the 60s. Probably when nobody really cared too much, I would assume, but I'm not really sure whether that is pertinent. And then just some other, I don't know, food for thought, I think, for the city council members. Jen and I have obviously been doing a lot of research and trying to be as helpful as we can when this is all said and done. And in terms of the information that I've gathered, I haven't done as much extensive research as Jen has, but the information that I was looking into, I spoke with several real estate agents here in town. I spoke with my neighbor, Don Warnicki, this evening prior to coming to this meeting tonight, and as you guys know, he is on the Planning and Zoning Board. So currently, within the city limits of Hampton, there are 12 properties only that are a minimum of 2 acres or more. So in that sense, especially with the guidelines that the city council has drafted, especially with limiting, the 2 acre minimum, you guys are only going to be talking to 12 of us in total here. And that doesn't include the big hay pasture that Dawn owns that separates my property from the Grolke's property. That's an R1 residential property, as are all the other ones that kind of are like outliers around town. One idea, since, I think a really big hurdle that has been vocalized multiple times by city council members is how do we make this short and sweet and concise? A very far-fetched idea, and this is what I was talking with Dawn about this evening. Is there a potential for the idea, instead of having to go through and rewrite all these ordinances and laws and back and forth and voting and all these types of things, would it be perhaps be more prudent to designate a new category for residential ag properties, where you kind of split the difference, where we live within city limits, we're an R1 residential, zoned R1, but we don't necessarily fall within the same parameters as everybody who is a residential property owner. And then, each zoning regulation has its own rules that are applicable to each zoning law or zoning ordinance. So is it possible to, instead of having to rewrite the rule book, is it too far-fetched for the council to perhaps consider creating a special category, like an R1A or something like that, where we are a residential property, but we do have sizable land, we may not have close neighbors in proximity. It's kind of like Sesame Street. One of these things is not like the other. And write rules and regulations for an ag residential property instead of that. I spoke, when I spoke with Dawn said it's never been done, but just because it hasn't been done doesn't mean that it can't be done. And of course, the planning board would just be the ones that would put together a proposal. It would still obviously come before the city council to be voted amongst you fine folks. But, again, that may be another alternative option to try to limit how many people within these city limits of Hampton who may have, neighbor all the way around them, trying to come in here and ask you guys for chickens or something else using ordinance 5505. Is it possible to still put these chicken regulations in place, but put it in place for a specific type of residential zone? So I know that's not a bone to pick today, but it was just a little thought nugget that I've been kind of playing around with. And, considering that there's 12 properties, I wasn't sure if that would be something that the city council would perhaps be amenable to kind of,
Right. I think
So,
it's
it-
like we said, we can take this thing as big
Exactly.
as we want. Do we want to start change zoning? No.
No.
That's my short answer. I don't want to see change zoning. We have an ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
It says no chickens. We've got an exception for that ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
All we need is a couple of guidelines.
Okay.
I don't know
Like
that
I
we
said-
want to still start changing zoning, do we, Doug?
Well, I think if you now go down the road of zoning, now you're bringing in a completely different governing board.
Yes.
And now they're gonna start talking about chickens and and regulations. I think that, you don't have to, that doesn't have to be that way. The mere fact of you picking 2 or 2.4 acres or 2.5 acres, like she said, you're immediately limiting anybody from having chickens to about 10 or 12 properties in Hampton. So that one regulation alone will limit. So I would say you go down this list and you say, you come to some consensus on, we don't need these, we do need this one, and then it would be fairly simple, but.
It seems like it.
But yeah, she's right. You're limited to 12 properties. If you go 2 or 2.4 acres, that's the big one.
I was going to have Sarah ask a question. Hearing and reading these draft items, which do you agree with, which do you not agree with? If I can ask that, because I'm not raising the chickens, she is, or they are.
I would honestly say the only thing that I would have concern about is limiting the size for the chickens, both in for the how much room they are allowed to have. I get that you don't, like what you brought up, Ron, you know, if I fence in my 3-acre property, does that mean that I get to keep my chickens running around loose? You know, it was said, well, you know, that goes against the at-large law. You know, I mean, you know, I don't want to speak on behalf of my neighbors. I don't want to speak on behalf of anyone who may be thinking about getting chickens. I just know myself that I like giving my animals as much room as they can go. If I didn't, I wouldn't want my chicken, you know, I wouldn't have had them, you know, free range pecking around in my, you know. I do think that it is reasonable to put a parcel minimum. I think that is very important because obviously we don't want to be labeled as, you know, animal abusers or anything like that. But, you know, and I certainly don't want to get into trouble if, you know, my husband and I are planning on building, we have the materials, you know, a really large, fully enclosed top side, even actually digging down underneath the ground about a foot, and then bringing the wire underneath to prevent predators from digging into the chicken coop. But I don't, you know, if this, you know, if these maximum limitations are put in place, I don't want to be inspected and then say, oh, well, you have to tear down your entire outdoor enclosure, your 410 square feet, or, you know, I mean, I don't want to do, I don't want to have to do all that. I mean, granted, I don't know off the top of my head how large my outdoor enclosure is, but it's going to jut out into my 2-acre pasture. So I would honestly think that would be my only concern about it. But in all honesty, I completely agree with the city council's proposed list. I think that it is reasonable that there is a lot minimum. I think it is completely reasonable to ask us to have our poultry fenced in. I think it's completely reasonable to minimize the number of hens that we are allowed to have. I think it is reasonable to ask for a permit fee. I think it's reasonable to make sure there are no nuisance violations. I don't think that there's really anything completely unreasonable to both the city and to us citizens who have been granted this. At least for myself, again, I don't want to speak on behalf of my neighbors or anyone else, but, you guys go back and look at that tape. I'm going to be sitting there nodding my head like, yep, that sounds good. That sounds reasonable. So.
Let me ask you something. I mean, just coops kind of go with chickens.
Mhm.
In my head. That's how it goes together. Do we have to have a coop? Does one of these buildings that's already covered in our building code as a shed, does that constitute a coop?
So.
Have to have the special,
Yeah, so as I mentioned a few meetings prior, so prior to me moving here to Iowa, I spent 12 years in the veterinary field, not just some little, tech or, some little vet assistant. I was a full-fledged emergency critical care, large animal, exotic animal specialist, and I also taught all the laws and regulations in addition to veterinary medicine. The difference that you're looking for, Steve, in terms of a coop for your chickens are the amenities that you are putting into the building itself. The birds can't just be put into a blank 4-wall enclosure with a bowl of water and food and said, that's a coop,
right?
right?
But you could take one of those sheds.
You most certainly
Make
can
it-
and convert it,
You can
yes.
do whatever you want.
Exactly. And I think, if the council is concerned about how potential citizens might try to develop their structure for their chickens, I don't think it would be unreasonable for the council to perhaps make more specific guidelines in terms of, I don't want to say guidelines, but for the indoor structure, like where I live in a house, and that during the day, I'm out and about in the world, and that's, whatever. At home, at night, I need a room, I need facilities, I need a kitchen, I need a bed, I need warmth. And these are all things that need to be taken into consideration when you are outlining what a coop is. Chickens should have their own individual nesting boxes. Chickens should be fed an appropriate diet, especially with us, those of us who have laying hens. They make foods designated for laying hens versus broilers. And broilers are the big-breasted chickens that we enjoy so much on our dinner plates. You need to have access to fresh water, obviously the things to keep rodents out and that type of thing. But in terms of what is a coop?
Yeah, cut care of a chicken, that's all. That's kind of all up to you guys.
Yeah.
But what do you need to keep it in?
Yeah, and I think, I don't think it's unreasonable to ask for a window in a coop. In the structure, my building has windows, because that will let in fresh light, ventilation, and that, and birds are very prone to respiratory diseases, as are a lot of other species. So, but in terms of what a coop may be, I would definitely say look at how the birds are put in, at night. Are they just going to be running around picking a spot in a corner?
Right.
Or do they have an actual place to bed down for the night?
So let me go over to this other, I got a lot of notes. There's another smaller list. Let me just read this list. It'll take me a minute, but I'll get it done. See if there's anything missing off of this check, because it's a lot smaller than that one. Minimum of 2 acres. Residential use properly only, not zoning. Chicken restricted to a fenced enclosure. And it was in the interior of the building too, but we can scratch that, Jerry. But a minimum or maximum yard. Coop should be within a fenced enclosure, so they're not free range. Enclosure may be must be located at the rear portion of the acreage. Enclosure must be a minimum of 100 feet from the neighboring dwelling. Hens only, maximum of 6 hens. No egg sales, we can do it that way we want to. No chickens in the dwelling. No nuisance violations, prior history. Coop and fed enclosures should be kept clean, sanitary, and clean of odors. Any violation results in being revoked, and 2-year or 1-year permits. What's missing from that
In all honesty, I don't really think that there's much that's missing from that either. I think that really checks off all the, you have your parcel size, you have your flock size, you have your housing regulations and sizes put in place, and then obviously how we can best avoid stepping on any neighboring toes. I think that's perfectly applicable. I think, having the permit fee, whether it's a year or 2 years, I think that is reasonable. I know you didn't mention, I don't know whether or not the violations portions of what you read off would still be the same or not, or if you guys would treat it as any other violation.
Any no nuisance violations.
Yeah.
History within prior 12 months of the application, so.
I don't think that there's anything necessarily unreasonable about that, and again, I don't want to speak on behalf of my neighbors, but I can definitely tell you, I check all those boxes in terms of being compliant with my,
Okay.
with my flock. So I think that's perfectly reasonable.
What about the council? What do you guys think about that?
I'm fine.
I want to look at it more. I'm not ready.
Okay, that's fine. Butch, would you like to step up?
So the maximum of 6 hens, maybe we could think about maybe 10. And then the coops must be within a fenced enclosure. I'm not sure if anybody of us three have coops that are fenced in all the way around. Is
I
that,
think what I would look at that is are your chickens able to leave that building and run around? Or if they leave that building, does it need to have a fence around it? That's what I would look at.
right? But some of these coops, I mean, you want a fence all the way around the whole entire coop?
I don't know. I'm not a chicken lover. I'm
Right, but
sorry.
the way number 4 reads, the coop must be within a fenced enclosure. Is the way that reads.
Right.
So my question is, can we just have a fenced-in area where the chicken goes in and out of the
Kinda like
run?
that.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's up to,
But the way it reads, it's saying it needs to be within a fenced enclosure.
well, I think
So
it just has
want
to be, they have
clarification.
to be contained. It's like we talked about putting a fence all the way around your yard. Okay, now it's the coops inside the fence, so we're okay. I think that's what we're kind of looking at there. Am I missing something?
Kind of like our swimming pool ordinance where the wall of the pool is the barrier. We're treating the coop wall as the fenced-in area, and then out here is where
Right.
the chickens could run.
Right. But that area there is
So
still
the coop would be
still
part of the
fenced in,
fenced
yeah.
area?
Yeah.
Correct,
Okay.
correct. Yep.
All right,
I'm tracking now.
yeah, those were the questions that I had.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Mr. Palmer.
Personally, I don't mind the hens being 10, 8, no, I would say no more than 10, but that's just me. I'm not ready to decide anything tonight.
No. We've still got to run through this through the attorney. I mean,
Well, I don't think there's any point in taking anything to an attorney until you guys tell me exactly what you
Yeah.
want on your list.
Yeah.
So, just pointing that out. Let's check audio with Kristen. Kristen, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Do you have any
Well, that-
input?
I think, like they were saying, the number 1 on the chicken regulations, that really just kind of takes the number down to who can have chickens to, like you said, 10 or 12.
Can you
And
speak
I'm
up,
wondering-
please?
Yep, sorry. I said I like number 1, like they were saying, it just kind of limits the amount of people who could even apply to have chickens. And then I don't know how much more would need to be on there. I do like the thought of having a number of maximum hens. I'm not sure what that number would be, how much of a difference between 6 and 10 hens really would make, but I guess that's about it.
okay, thank you.
Can you tell me what she said? I couldn't hear a darn thing. Can we repeat that?
Number 1, she's good with having
Okay.
at least a 2-acre minimum. And then number of hens, she's not really, there's never mind made up on the number of hens. Anything else I'm missing?
No.
Okay.
So do we want to compile a level list tonight? Do you guys want to sleep on this? And we weren't going to meet again until, go ahead.
Mayor, so your short list, you went through number 1 through 8, right? And with some things we gotta
Yep.
figure out as
Yep.
far as 3 and 4, maybe. 1 through 8, and then what other ones did you include?
Oh, well, the egg sales is a question mark yet.
Okay.
No chickens in the dwelling, which is number J on the other parking lot, or on the other one,
Okay.
number 10. Notice no nuisance violations within 12 months. And violation of regulations will result in the permit being revoked on the first offense.
Okay.
And then the number of years on the
Permit.
permit and keeping the place clean. I think that's
18
Yep.
on my list.
18 or 19, both of them,
Okay.
kind of.
So maybe go around the room and see if there's a consensus on those items and, or if there's any consensus to get rid of any of those items.
Any ideas?
I'll
Mr.
start.
Palmer?
The coop in the fenced-in area, like my drawing where the fence was part of the coop.
Right.
I would go 10 hens. The no egg sales on the property to me really doesn't matter, but I don't want to get
Yeah.
into it. I would go 2-year permit, just so we don't have to keep
Yep.
hassling with this.
Yep.
Anyway, those are my basic things.
Okay. Jerry?
I still want to look at the square footage for the chickens. I still want to look at that, and also the maximum size of their coop, their chicken run. I think there should be a permit fee. There's a permit fee for other pets, so chickens should be included in that. I'm really not in favor of going up to 10 chickens, because then we are starting to get into that, well, we got all these eggs, what do we do with them? And I could be wrong, but, most cities that allow chickens limit it 4 to 6. That's the average number that I've found. And I just think 3 and 16 could be combined and worded better to make more sense.
What about the permit length? 1 year, 2 year on the permit?
Well, other pets are 1-year permits at this time.
Right.
They're pets, they should have a 1-year permit just like everybody else.
Okay.
If we change it for dogs to coincide with the rabies vaccination, then we can look at that and change it for that too.
Okay. All right. Barry, what do you got to say?
I'd like to go along with everything but limit to 6. And number 16, I'd like to see a larger area for the chickens to be outside.
What do you think would be a good number, Barry?
I don't know.
Or no max as long as it's fenced?
Well, I don't think they should be running around your whole yard, but it's gotta be, it's for the benefit of the chickens.
So if
Like-
it's a 2-acre
like-
parcel,
10 square feet per chicken. Oh, here, this, I guess 16 says 12, but I don't know. I can't picture it.
okay.
Okay.
But you said 6 hens?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Bill, any thoughts?
Well, I think as long as we can't do a resolution and we're going to go the ordinance route, it sounds like, which is fine, I think we should stick with your longer version that you started with, Steve. If we're going to do the ordinance, let's do the ordinance and try to cover all of the bases. I agree with 6 hens. I agree with 1-year permit. and it talked about a cost, I don't know, $10 is fine. You said 10 or 20, 10 is fine. I think that the maximum run of 400 square feet is plenty for the chickens. The only thing that I really disagree with on the original draft that you proposed, Steve, is you said 10 feet from any property line. I think that should be increased. I think that's awfully close to a neighbor's property. And I'm not sure where, I know where these 3 applicants, and I don't know where the other 10s lay as far as property and homes and things. I don't know that. So I think 10 feet is too close to another property line, and I had suggested 225 feet. Maybe that's too much, but
Right.
I think maybe at least 50 or
That's-
50 or 75
That's
feet.
other dwellings, next door dwellings, correct? Or are you talking about the whole?
I'm
lot?
talking about property line.
Okay, property line for,
Yeah, you said 10 feet for property line on this one, on number
right,
6.
I just threw that out there.
Yeah, and
So,
I think that should probably be increased.
so Doug's setbacks for sheds, so to speak, are 3 foot on the rear and 3 foot and on the side yard.
Mhm.
So you can keep a shed within 3 feet of the,
Exactly, but we're not keeping chickens in my shed. And I don't want to be offensive to my neighbor if I put it 10 foot from his property line. I mean, I have a neighbor's shed 10 feet from my property line, and I'm not happy with it. But if I had a chicken coop 10 feet from my property line, I'd be upset. So anyway, I'm thinking that should be increased at 10-foot line. And I don't know what the answer would be. I was thinking I try to picture it. And I stepped off 100 feet, 100 yards, well, there's a football field, so I'm thinking 50 yards or whatever, maybe 50 yards is too much, but 10 feet is way too close for a property line, I think. Other than that, Steve, if we're going to the ordinance, I'd go the full route and try to get all the bases we can, so we don't have to come across this again.
okay,
Can I just
thank you.
throw something out there, Bill?
Yep.
The majority of the ordinances that are in Iowa, I just wanted to share with you, they say 10, 15, 25 feet from the property line.
Okay.
That's what we see in the Iowa ordinances that allow chickens. So I think 200 and some feet that's a lot.
Yeah, that's probably too much. I'm just,
I think you're gonna,
but,
it's really gonna be I like your idea for the distance, because most of them have electricity to them or water, and if you get too far away, it's gonna be like a super inconvenience to take care of them.
I'd be fine with 25 feet. I just thought 10 feet was kind of close.
But, you're talking about these 3 properties don't have anything around them, so it wouldn't matter if they're right on the property line.
Well, see, and that's the only thing, Barry. I know where these 3 people are, but you said there's 12 total. So I have no idea where the other 9 are. So, I mean, the house could be right on the property line, and you'd have a chicken coop right there 10 feet away from your home.
Yep.
Or something. I mean, I know you guys are okay. You're far enough away, but
Yep. Okay, thank you. Mr. Davies, you just said.
I think we've had some very good discussion tonight. I appreciate, Mayor, handing out what you did for the regulations. And personally, I don't really have any strong feelings for the numbers, and I would just want to do what's practical and, if anything, defer to the current property owners and work with them on what is their best suggestions for changes to the code.
All right.
I-
About number of chickens. You okay with
I
whatever?
have no strong feeling towards the numbers, and I would just defer to the present property owners to see what is practical and what they would recommend.
Okay,
Steve?
Yep.
I would like to take this and sit down and look at what Jennifer sent us all and compare the two and see if we can't marry the two so that we're happy, they're happy, it's practical, chickens are well cared for. And that's why I'm not ready to move forward with anything. I want to look at both of these side by side and do some comparison and see if we can work that out.
Okay. Jennifer, did you have anything you wanted to share with us or this evening? I mean, list-wise, do you, one way or the other?
Mayor, Kristen?
Kristen?
I mean, I think everything, I like how it reads. I do agree a little further from the property lines, just because we don't know what the other properties look like. And like I said, I'm not sure on the number of chickens. But yeah, other than that, I think everything else was okay.
Okay, so we're still working
Can you
on
tell
all.
us what she said?
Same thing as before.
Okay.
Okay, pretty much okay with them. She still not sure on the number of hens.
Yeah.
So,
I do have something, I'm so sorry.
Yep, step up here. Yep.
So as far as the number of chickens, something that I did just think of is, as a chicken owner, so you can't just have 6 chickens and bring in 4, because chickens don't really like each other when you bring in a new group. So the idea for us, like to have 10 chickens, is so you're going to have a group of chickens and you might keep them separate, and then eventually you merge them together, because if you just put them together, they could peck each other and actually kill each other. So that's I think the reason why I think of 10, just because then if you want to, chickens don't lay right away, and eventually chickens quit laying. So if you want to kind of get on that pattern, if you are having them for eggs, that maybe is a good reason to maybe consider 10. I would not want to go more than 10, but that's just something to think about if you don't know anything about chickens. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. So it doesn't look like we're ready to put anything together at this point. Anybody else?
I was just going to add, I do like what Jerry said. I think we do need to work, as I mentioned, work with the current owners and come up with something, because I myself, I don't know enough about chickens to say 25 feet from this, or 10 or 11 chickens,
Right.
but I do think and I appreciate you coming to the meeting and ongoing efforts to work with us. Thank you.
And I do think too that, I mean, again, I don't want to speak for a third neighbor, but I don't know about the Brokies. I honestly, I would have no problem with people coming to my home, looking at the coop that we have remodeled inside, getting some ideas of how those types of layouts are done. I know that that is something that I would be more than happy to accommodate anybody on the city council or in law enforcement or anything like that, so.
Okay, I think what we're going to do is, we've got a workshop on the 8th of December.
yes.
So I'm going to gather my so I'm going to gather that. And 'cause sometimes I miss something, but I'll go back and I'll read it or listen to it. Jerry, look at what you want to look at. Anybody else on the council that has any other thoughts?
Yeah, I think, and also the council has Jennifer Grulke's proposals, so, in an email, so, and if you need them again, I can forward them again, so.
Yep. I just want to just caution everybody, because this is what we have to abide by, is we don't want to send out an email to everybody in the council and Jennifer, because now we got a meeting and we're in trouble. So if you have something for Jennifer, reach out to her and let's get something put together and go for the 8th of December. And let's put something together and let's get in the works. I don't think we want to go too much farther than that. I think we want to get it done and get something happening, so.
Great.
If everybody's okay with that, we'll move forward that way. And I appreciate everybody's input, always. Appreciate you guys being there as well. And with that, that's it. I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.